evening and welcome to a very special program. It's a historic day for civil aviation in India. Air India, the national carrier, is back with the Tatas after more than 6 decades. Their bid of 18,000 crores was the highest, and hopefully by the end of December the transfer of ownership will be complete. On this program, the Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia, those who have been board directors at the Tatas and aviation experts on what is truly a spectacular day for Indian aviation.
The country's first flight was a Pusmoth service from Karachi to Bombay in 1932. The first international flight took off from Bombay to London.
In 1953, the government nationalized Air India, an airline started by J.R.D. Tata. Today, 68 years later, this big announcement: Air India will be back with the Tatas by the end of the year.
The Tata Sons Private Limited, their SPV, Tatas Private Limited, is the winning bidder at 18,000 crore.
And here's why this is crucial.
If you say net worth of the Air India, for which we are selling the equity, so if you are looking at equity consideration, it is minus 32 at this position. Air India is deeply negative.
For 89 years, Tata Airlines, which became Air India, came to define civil aviation in India. In 1960, it became the first Asian airline to induct jet aircraft. In 62, it became the world's first all-jet airline. But from the mid-70s onwards, Air India came to lose its stellar reputation. Heavily overstaffed, bureaucratic, with plummeting service standards meant the airline defined the word inefficient. In 1978, after the crash of a Boeing 747, the Prime Minister Morarji Desai dropped J.R.D. Tata as chairman. It was only in 1986 that he was restored to the post. But Air India was still relatively profitable, given its near monopoly over Indian skies. But it was this decision in 2007 to merge Air India and Indian Airlines that spelled financial disaster for both entities.
Well, I think in hindsight everybody can say anything, but the fact is that it was a well-intentioned merger. It makes a lot of economic sense.
Different working cultures, a massive order of aircraft from Boeing and Airbus, and the entry of competitors like Indigo meant Air India began to bleed financially. From 2009 to 2010, 1,10,276 crores of taxpayer funds kept the airline afloat. Today it loses a whopping 20 crore rupees each and every day. The Tatas will have the opportunity of regaining the image and reputation it enjoyed in earlier years. Mr. J.R.D. Tata would have been overjoyed if he was in our midst today. Vishnu Shom for NDTV. Well, it's a huge day for civil aviation in the country, with the Tatas giving the winning bid of 18,000 crores to acquire Air India. So once they do eventually acquire the airline, it'll be very much a return to the family fold for them. But it's a huge step for the government as well. It is a landmark disinvestment drive process. Jyotiraditya Scindia, the Civil Aviation Minister, joins me now. Mr. Scindia, thanks very much for being with us. How big is this, not just in the context of the overall disinvestment process, but also for thousands of employees of Air India, because the airline was bleeding 20 crores every day?
I think it's a momentous day for India, for 130 crore of our people. Let's not forget that yes, it is a momentous day for civil aviation as well. An airline that was, as you mentioned, bleeding 20 crores a day, 7,200 crores a year over the last 5 years. You're talking about almost 36,000 crores that has gone into sustain an airline. I think this disinvestment process has been extremely thorough. It's been extremely rigorous. It has resulted in a landmark outcome under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharamanji, Deepam, and the Ministry of Civil Aviation. I wish the new owners all the very best. I am very confident that under the new ownership, they will continue to deliver a value proposition for our customers, and you will see a much more engaging environment in the civil aviation arena and in the skies in the days to come. with a fleet of almost 175 planes now. The new owners will 118 of Air India and Air India Express, plus their own fleet which existed today. You will see certainly a better value proposition also for my customers in the civil aviation arena. At the end of the day, I am not only the Minister of Airlines and the Minister of Airports, I am the Minister of Civil Aviation, and my responsibility at the end of the day is to the customers of civil aviation, whose interests will be served through this disinvestment.
Mr. Scindia, there is 46,262 crore rupees left in debt. Now that's been put into a special purpose vehicle. How is that debt going to be serviced?
So the SPV houses not only the debt of 6,000 crores as you mentioned, Vishnu, but also do remember that the equity portion from the sale will also be adjusted against that debt. Secondly, that SPV also houses many thousands of crores worth of non-core assets which were not hived off with Air India. So all the real estate, all the other movables and other valuable assets of Air India still are housed in that SPV. Those will also be auctioned, including the immovable properties, and whatever is retrieved from that will also reduce that debt burden of 46,000 crores.
And will that debt burden be something that Tatas would have to pay? Because as I understand it,
not
the
at all.
government is also
not at all.
already.
Not at all.
You
are
the sovereign guarantor of that.
The SPV has nothing to do with the disinvestment process. The disinvestment process has only been, let me categorically state to you, Air India 100%, Air India Express 100%, and AIESL SATS, which is the catering arm, 50%. Those are the three transactions that have gone through disinvestment. All the debt that has been moved from the balance sheet of Air India to the SPV will remain in the SPV and not with the new owners. All the non-core assets of Air India, including real estate and all movables, have been moved to the SPV. They will remain in the SPV and not with the new owners.
From a broader standpoint, what does this mean for Indian civil aviation? If you've got a consolidated Air India now, perhaps financially more viable in the future, a leaner airline going forward, with all of these excellent legacy routes, what does it mean for me as a passenger?
As you know, Vishnu, we've gone through a very, very difficult 2 years in COVID in the area of civil aviation across the world, and similarly so in India. The airlines, as you probably are very well aware, are not in the pink of health. We have to nurse them back to health. And I think in that environment, the very fact that you have an airline now with a sustainable asset base and a sustainable volume will be able to ply and service customers, will create a very robust environment within India. So I'm very confident that the days to come, you are going to see on a sectoral side increase in volume of passengers. At our height pre-COVID, we had 4.2 lakh passengers per day. We are today at somewhere around 2.4, 2.5 lakh passengers a day. I'm sure with the oncoming festive season, you're going to see a rise in that. Along with the fare bans that we have in place, I'm looking at a slow return to normalcy over the next couple of months.
Okay.
And then with all the other steps that I'm taking, talking to states, reducing VAT, I want to compliment the government of Uttarakhand, where I was today, and the UT of Andaman and Nicobar. There are other states that are following suit of reducing VAT on ATF, thereby making it much more easier for airlines to get a higher number of routes into those states. I'm looking over the medium term, a slow return to normalcy. And I think this step will also augur very well towards that return to normalcy.
Jyotiraditya Scindia, Civil Aviation Minister of India, thank you so much for speaking to us. It is a landmark day. Many of us didn't think it would happen, but it has happened. Let's hope it's fluent and smooth from here till the end of December. A couple of steps still left. But thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, joining us now, Kapil Kaul, the CEO of CAPA, the Centre for Aviation. Thanks very much for being with us. Vinamra Longani, with the head of operations at Serene. which is an aviation law firm. You're also joined by Prashant Pitti, the co-founder of Ease My Trip. Thank you all very much for being with us. Kapil, how difficult will it be for the Tatas to make Air India profitable?
Vishnu, first of all, I will just echo what the Honorable Minister said. It's a great day for aviation. As you rightly said, it was unthinkable about a year back to see whether this privatization would go through. So I congratulate the government in terms of making sure that they've carried forward the process with highest determination. And congratulations to Tatas. It will be a long road ahead. It's not going to be an easy road back to turnaround. But I think they have shown that their interest in aviation is long-term. So I think all positives in place. As for the next steps are concerned, I think once the legal process goes, I'm not sure whether December 21 is the realistic date for a legal handover. It may take a few months. But we're looking at next fiscal, a consolidated airline, which will begin the restructuring process from paper to real implementation. But I think the beginning has been made that Tatas have demonstrated that they're here for long haul. And that's very positive for the entire sector.
Yeah. Vinamra, in terms of the debt itself, now the minister did clarify that it's the government which is going to be servicing this 46,000 crore debt. And they're going to be servicing this partly through what they've got from the Tatas once the proceeds are realized, and also from the sale of non-core assets. But at the end of the day, how much of that non-core assets do you believe will be realized? And the question is this: how much of this is going to be a write-off in terms of the debt?
Well, thank you for having me on the show again, Vishnu. You see, in my mind, what this means, this decision today really means, is that the taxpayer will not have to pay, starting the 1st of January, hypothetically, let's say if they're able to hand over the airline by the 31st of December this year, the taxpayer would not be out of pocket of 20 crore rupees or whatever it is every day from the 1st of January.
Right.
Exactly. So, in my mind, one really has to look through what went into the SPV, what assets went into the SPV. In all likelihood, there's going to be an auction of property and other assets, and it remains to be seen what's going to be recovered. But like I said, for me as an honest taxpayer, and as my colleague Nitin would say, the biggest win for the honest taxpayer is that we would not be spending any more of our money, the exchequer's money, on Air India, hopefully starting the 1st of January.
Prashant Pitti, what would this mean for the aviation sector in India, assuming the Tatas are able to fix Air India? They've got two airlines coming on board, Air India Express, Air India as well. They run Vistara and they have Air Asia under them. So in terms of market dynamics, what does it mean?
Well, to be honest, it's certainly a very positive news for the entire sector. It's a homecoming moment for the Tata. And given the experience and legacy, I think Tata Group is certainly well poised to take over Air India at this crucial juncture. As you rightly mentioned, Tata is going to be one of the leading players in Indian aviation industry. They already have depth of knowledge by running Vistara and Air Asia, and now they'll be adding Air India and Air India Express as well to their kitty. With these three distinct carriers in their portfolio, I think they will be able to offer much more choices to the consumers and revive the aviation industry, which already is going through the cusp of revolution due to the accelerated vaccination drive and a huge pent-up demand, which we already are seeing while the tickets are being made.
Kapil, a final question to you. Air India is going to have to spend a lot more than 18,000 crores. They're going to need new aircraft. They're going to have to refurbish the existing aircraft, the hard product, out and out. How are they going to make it a more attractive and profitable airline to fly, let's say, internationally?
I think, the investment of 18,000 crores where 2,700 crores is equity. You need to see it from the fact that you need billions of dollars to restructure it. So it's a very, very large bet that Tatas have taken. As Mr. Tata has said, there's a long haul. I agree, this is a long haul. It's going to take time. But restructuring, if it is done effectively, both Tatas have the ability to bring in the kind of expertise that's required to turn around Air India, and they have a patient and long-term capital. They have the ability to bring in capital as and when is required. And I must tell you, there are a lot many people globally who would like to part of this, which is arguably one of the most coveted restructuring projects globally. So I think financial capital and intellectual capital, if it's put in place with the determination, it's going to turn around. The question is going to take time. It's going to take a lot of money. And that's why Tatas have taken a long-term bet in it. And as for the government is concerned, you were talking about what will happen to 42,000 crores or 43,000 crores. The government will have to take a big haircut. That's why this decision to exit Air India with such a large haircut and do it and carry it forward is momentous. It's not a very easy decision to carry to allow Tatas to take this airline roughly around 18,000 crores, take large part of the debt. My own assessment, the debt, including FY22, would be much larger. They will have to take a large haircut, and that's why the government has taken the right decision, because it's given a future to Air India. It's ensured that Air India is in right hands, so that the airline has a future. And with a stronger group like Tata's, India will continue to get benefits, direct, indirect, and catalytic benefits that the economy deserves.
Yep.
So I think, as I said to you, long haul, but I think it's doable. They have the wherewithal to make it work, but it's going to take time.
Vinamra, can we see Air India having an entirely new fleet going forward, one which is more efficient? The existing 777 fleet is already quite old, number one. Number two, they've got many more choices. Airbus airliners coming on board with, say, the A350, new variants of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. So do you see a new fleet altogether coming on board, one which ties up, let's say, with Vistara?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm glad you spoke about Vistara. Vistara operates the Boeing 787-9 Dreamliners. They are the wide-body aircraft at Vistara. And interestingly, Air India operates the 787-8, which is the smaller variant of the Boeing 787 Dreamliner. So there are some synergies there. And in my mind, while a brand new fleet, but they might place an order which may sort of be delivered over the next 5 years or 8 years or whatever. In my mind, the priority right now is to make sure that all these group brands, they sort of align, and there is one Air India going forward. At this point in time, only the Tatas know what Air India would really look like in the next year or in the next 5 years. The AirAsia brand, will it go? Will the Vistara brand stay? I mean, interestingly, and I tweeted about this, the Vistara is actually called Tata Sia Airlines, right. And Vistara is just a brand that's used by the airline. So will that brand be retained? I mean, I'm assuming not. It becomes Air India. And then what happens to the Singapore Airlines? Will you bring them on board? So there's a whole bunch of things there. But coming back to your question, as far as the fleet goes, I think for the time being, they will refurbish the fleet to bring them all in line with one standard, so that customers have a seamless experience whenever they travel, hypothetically on a Vistara 787 or an Air India 787, for example, if they were to go to Europe.
Well, that would be a qualitative difference from what we have on Air India right now. I'd like to thank you all very much for being with us to talk about Air India, or should I say the new Tata Airlines. So what does this day mean for the Tatas? Joining us now, a very special guest, Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan, is a former director at Tata Sons and joins us now. Thanks, sir, very much for being with us. Now, so many in the Tata family, Mr. Ratan Tata certainly was very interested for so many years in major aviation. And by that, it's always been Air India. What does this moment mean for the Tatas?
Well, I suppose it is natural for everybody in Tatas to feel joyous, because if I may use it, a metaphorical expression, we have heard about this aunt who was born in 1932 when Lord Willingdon was the governor. And then she went away from our home. And our seniors have told us that we used to have an aunt called Air India, and now the aunt is coming home.
Right.
And we are going to welcome her. We are going to be happy. She's one of the family. She might have been through a rough time, ups and downs, as with like everybody else. But we welcome our aunt back home.
Well, welcoming the aunt back home is great news at one level, but unfortunately, Air India has also had huge financial problems. To make this viable will be perhaps the biggest challenge, or one of the biggest challenges that Tata Group has ever faced. So share your thoughts on that. It's going to be very difficult. This is a bleeding airline.
I mean, that it has got huge financial problems is not a secret. Tatas must have a plan. I'm not there. I've been away, retired 6 years ago. And I have little doubt that with finely execution-oriented leaders like Chandra, there is a detailed execution plan. It won't be easy, but then Tatas are never undertaking things that are easy. Their track record is Desh Seva. Whatever other mantris may say, Tatas are the foremost in Desh Seva. And if anybody had to buy Tata, I think if anybody had to buy Air India, probably Tatas is the best. Yes.
No,
so there's a bit of Desh Seva in this. There are risks, but I am absolutely certain, having been in Tatas, that they have an internal game plan. That doesn't mean they won't have a tough time, but I'm sure they've thought about it.
Mr. Gopalakrishnan, what is it? I mean, there's obviously that emotional attachment, the history, the fact that this is an aunt returning, to use your own words, and then there is an incredibly difficult aviation market in India, let alone foreign markets. Is this an issue of personal prestige for the Tata Group ahead of hard-nosed financial calculations, or do you believe that this airline will be profitable once again?
You know, if you look at the history of Tatas, I'm not answering your question in a roundabout way. We have taken on, or the history of Tatas is that they've taken on challenges which seem to have a long time to come right, but they persisted till they got it right. The Taj was set up in 1903. It made its first profit in 1937. Tata Chemicals was set up in Mitapur. People said you're a loser, but by 1955 it was wildly profitable. So it will be a long journey, but Tatas are not scared of that. Tatas want to do the right things at the right time. And it is that spirit rather than just prestige. I don't think it's just prestige. It is to do doing the right things at the right time that Tatas are motivated. I cannot tell you whether it will take 5 years or 15 years, but somebody has a plan for that, I have no doubt.
Thank you, sir, very much for being with us. It is indeed a great day for Indian civil aviation, one way or the other. R. Gopalakrishnan, former director of Tata Sons, thank you very much, sir, for being with us.
Thank you.